Let us be aware that when you and I surround this altar as Catholic Christians, when we gather like this in prayer, ritual, giving thanks, song, what we do at this altar is Eucharist. And when we do Eucharist, we do precisely what the word means. We give thanks. July 4th has always been a special day for me. It recalls many, many happy memories in that house back in Boston that today is 110 years old. One of my nieces lived there. It is an important day, this July 4th. It's a sacred day. It's a dedicated day. A day set apart. A day for giving thanks. A day that brings people together in so many beautiful ways. It was always a day that as a young boy back there I looked forward to. Not because I knew anything about the Constitution of the United States or the amendments or the Federalist Papers or the Declaration of Independence, but I looked forward like any young boy would. And today I remember the grand get-togethers in the backyard for family, neighbors, and a lot of invited guests. Most of the time, sometimes I, as a boy, did not know them. There are large containers of all kinds of cold drinks, beer, lemonade, sodas, which in Boston we call tonic, and lots of red wine made by my many uncles, and I emphasize terrible tasting red wine. But Uncle Tony and Uncle Vincent and Uncle Frank, they thought that their wine was a gift from the gods, and we did not destroy their illusion. There was enough food at those 4th of July celebrations in the backyard to feed a small city. You see, my father came from a little town in Italy, little Paese. That's what the word means, little town. The name of the Paese was Grottomenada in Provincia di Avellino, which is a little southeast of Naples. My father was a very, very intelligent person, but my father was not educated. He could read, but he could not write. But he carried a dozen pens and pencils in his pocket to fool people. My father's name was Pasquale, but his co-workers in the construction jobs gave him a new name, and they called him Patsy. He thought that was pretty cool, this American name, and it stuck with him for the rest of his life. Throughout the 4th of July celebrations in the backyard, under a couple of beautiful massive oak trees, crimson maples, lazy-looking weeping willows, and a few New England white birch, my father would sit in his favorite beach chair, sip some soft wine, sip some soft drink, for he didn't like hard drinks, especially his brother's wine. His 5 sons made up for his lack of taste of hard drink. And while relaxing under those trees, he would occasionally say, kind of pontifically, looking around at those present, "What a great country we have," he would say. He loved this country. He loved July 4th. He relished talking to fellow immigrants who lived in our area. You see, Harry was there. Harry was our milkman. Harry was a Jew. He was a Russian Jew. Our neighbors across the street, Mr. and Mrs. Stefanski, They were there. They were born in Poland. Nick, the guy who peddled groceries up and down the streets. Nick, we called him Nick the Greek because he was a Greek. He came from Patras, Greece. The man with the horse and wagon who on Saturday mornings rode up and down the streets in the area collecting old rags and metal and paper. And he was also a Jew. We called him the Rag Man because we didn't know his name. We never did get to know that good man. My father always praised the Rag Man. He said once in a while, he said, "Well, Rag Man, you built $1 million house for your family, collecting rags, paper, and pieces of metal. Congratulations to you," my father would say. And then follow up with his wisdom of the day. What a great country we have. There were others that weren't there all the time. Maybe some of you who are as old as I am or older, maybe you had them in your neighborhood. There was the man who peddled fish. We called him the fish man. I don't know, did you always have a refrigerator? We didn't always have a refrigerator. We had an ice box. And there was a man who came around. We called him the Ice Man. And we put the little card in the window to let him know how much ice we wanted, a quarter of a piece or a half a piece or a whole piece. The Iceman was there. I wonder if any of you remember the man who went around with a makeshift bicycle with some kind of a wheel, and he would sharpen knives. Did anybody ever have that in your neighborhood? He would sharpen knives. We didn't know his name. We just called him the Knife Man. And there was the bleaching lady, because she peddled bleaching water. Sometimes these people were at the 4th of July celebration. We could never figure out what country the bleaching lady came from. These and so many other precious memories of that day, the day we call the birthday of our country. I believe that too many of us take this date for granted. Too many of us do not give this day much attention. This day, Wednesday of this week. You know, there's more to that day than just a day off. More than just hot dogs and baseball and barbecues and apple pie. Pasquale, though not very educated, had a profound love and respect for that day and what it really meant. Financially, he never did experience the American dream. He came to this country with nothing. The only materialistic thing he left behind was his wooden trowel that he used when he poured cement on the construction jobs, and his 5 boys fought for that wooden trowel. After Pasquale died, I don't know, I think Henry was the one who won the lottery. I don't know why Henry got that, but Patsy Pasquale sent off 4 of his sons to war in 1941, all within 2 weeks. His oldest son, Louis, was killed in Cebu, Philippines, April 13th, 1945, day after President Roosevelt died. My father never became bitter. It did something to his personality that his oldest son was killed in the war, but he never became bitter, but remained convinced. And if he said it once, he said it 100 times at those celebrations. What a great country we have. I believe that America represents something universal in the human spirit. Now think of this. Isn't it amazing? You can go to Japan and drink sake for 25 years, and you will never become a Japanese. You can go to France and eat all the creme brulee you want. And you will never be called a Frenchman. You can go and live in Germany for 50 years, eat all the brauts that you can handle. No one will ever call you a German. You can go and live in Italy and eat all the pasta you want and tons of gelato, and you'll never become an Italian. You can go to Ireland and drink all the Jameson whiskey that your head can handle, and no one will ever call you an Irishman. In all these countries, you must be born there to be of there. Even if you're a legal resident of long standing, even if you become a citizen of those countries, even if you make a good living there, even if you are protected by the same laws there, even if you speak the same language fluently, cheer for the local sport teams, play their favorite music, cook the same food, fly the same flag, vote for the same candidates, and even if you can run for public office in those countries, you can't assume the national identity if you were born someplace else. You have to be born a member of the tribe. But anybody, I think my father knew this, anybody from any corner of the world can come to America to live, to become a law-abiding citizen and become and be called an American. What a beautiful country we have. In 1894, President Teddy Roosevelt said in a speech, "We freely extend the hand of welcome and good fellowship to every man and woman, no matter what their creed or birthplace, who come here honestly intent on becoming a good U.S. citizen like the rest of us." He continued, "A Scandinavian, a German, an Irishman, whoever, who has really become a person who's interested in our country has the right to stand on the same footing as any native-born citizen in our land, and is just as much entitled to friendship and support and social and political of their neighbors. This is the soul of America." And each year on that sacred day, that dedicated day, that 4th of July day, we recall, we honor, and we give thanks. Good old Pasquale. He wasn't very erudite. He wasn't very educated. He couldn't write a word, but he knew what he was talking about when he often said, with lots of pride, "What a great country we have." Happy 4th of July.